A consistent good sleep reduces our risk of depression and anxiety, and some studies show that this is by up to 40%. Conversely, chronic sleep disruption can worsen these conditions. Hi there, and a warm welcome to the Habit Nerd podcast. I'm Dr. Bree Hearn, host and general nerd about all things habits. Over my 20 plus years working as a writer, educator, researcher, keynote speaker, and coach, I've realized that habits influence everything from our health to our productivity and even our relationships. It was Aristotle, in fact, who said we become what we repeatedly do. On this podcast, you'll learn from inspiring experts as they share the habits and systems that help them live happily, healthily, and to achieve enormous success in their chosen fields. Thanks for being here. I do hope that you enjoy the episode. Hi there, welcome to today's episode of the Habit Nerd podcast. Thank you for being here. Now, one of my motivations, as my listeners know, as an academic and as a speaker through this podcast, is to turn science into simple habits for a healthier and happier life. So today we're diving into something we all crave but we often struggle with, and that is a great night's sleep. If you've ever tossed and turned, doom scrolled at midnight, or woken up feeling like you barely slept, this episode is for you. It's my intention that we explore 5 science-backed habits that can transform your nights and therefore your days as well. So first of all, let's have a very brief reminder of why sleep actually matters. Because sleep isn't just downtime, it's active repair. Quality sleep isn't a luxury, it is actually a necessity. So for those of us like myself who are motivated by what we could do to improve if we commit to improving our sleep habits, this is for you. First of all, we could improve our cognitive performance. In terms of memory and learning, sleep consolidates memories and strengthens our neural connections, and this makes it easier to retain information and to learn new skills. REM sleep, REM, which stands for rapid eye movement sleep in particular, enhances creativity and our ability to solve problems. The studies show that students and professionals perform better after they've had adequate sleep. It also helps with focus and decision making. Deep sleep supports attention, thinking speed, and executive function. I know you probably have had the same experience that I have had, where you feel like there's an important decision to make and you either can't get clarity on that decision, or you know that because you didn't sleep well the night before, or you've had consistently a few nights in a row where your sleep has been suboptimal, you know that the decision is not going to be made with the best of outcomes and the best of intentions. So the science does show that your attention and your thinking speed and your executive function for things like being focused and making important decisions improves when you get enough sleep. Sleep deprivation impairs our judgment and it slows down our reaction time. Now, in terms of our emotional well-being, sleep, or enough sleep, I should say, really helps regulate our mood. It stabilizes us and it helps reduce irritability, anxiety, and sadness. Think about how quick you are to lose your cool when you haven't had enough sleep. Poor sleep heightens this emotional reactivity and our stress responses. So something that wouldn't necessarily worry you on a day where you've had enough sleep might the next day, if you've had a bad night's sleep or not enough sleep, it might really annoy you and you might be quicker to be irritable and react with more, force and undue irritability because of that. So think about that as an impact on your emotional well-being. Sleep lowers cortisol, which is the stress hormone levels, and this helps us to feel calmer and more resilient, so more able to cope with what our day throws at us. And overall mental health protection is really important when we think about getting adequate sleep. A consistent good sleep reduces our risk of depression and anxiety, and some studies show that this is by up to 40%. Conversely, chronic sleep disruption can worsen these conditions. Now let's look at our physical health. During our sleep, our body produces something called cytokines, and these fight infection and inflammation. So therefore, our sleep actually gives our immune system a boost. It strengthens our immunity if we're getting enough sleep. I remember my grandmother used to say, make sure you're getting enough sleep, you're going to get sick. And as a young person, I remember being at uni and burning the candle at both ends, or working too hard. That's when I would start to get the sore throat, and then it would turn into a cold, or I would catch whatever was going around. So enough sleep actually protects us against bugs because our immune system is stronger. Enough sleep repairs our cells and our tissues. It's a restorative period where our body repairs our muscles, our tissues, and it balances our hormones. And sleep also clears metabolic waste, so it gives our brain a detox. It clears toxic proteins like beta amyloid, and these reduce the risk of really scary neurodegenerative diseases such as dementia and Alzheimer's disease. And finally, the social and behavioral benefits of getting enough sleep are that better sleep improves our emotional intelligence and our social interactions. And studies show that getting enough sleep actually reduces conflict and the risk of misunderstandings amongst people that you're around, whether that's your family members, your friends, or your colleagues. So there are a whole host of social and behavioral benefits, physical health benefits, emotional well-being benefits, and cognitive benefits from getting enough sleep. Now, when I say enough, studies show that between 7 and 9 hours is optimal. If you can get more, good for you. I know myself, my sweet spot is a minimum of 8. If I have 7 even, I don't feel quite rested. And if I get anywhere less than 7, my goodness, if I have a night where I have 5 or 6 hours sleep, just don't even spend the day with me. You need to stay away because it is not going to be a good day for anybody. So hopefully all of those studies have convinced you as the reasons to invest in good sleep habits. Now, I promised you that I would give you some science-backed hacks and habits around getting a good night's sleep. So here they are. There are going to be 5. My first one is, number 1 is to get a consistent sleep schedule happening. Your body actually runs on a circadian rhythm, or a 24-hour internal clock. So when you go to bed and you wake up at roughly the same time every day, you are able to reinforce that rhythm that your body needs. Research shows that consistency improves sleep quality and even heart health, so even your cardiovascular health. So the idea is to pick a bedtime and a wake-up time that you are likely to be able to stick to, even on weekends, and think of it as if you've just gotten a new computer and you need to set up the operating system. Think of setting up your body in the same way. So the idea of picking a realistic wake up and bedtime is that you need to be able to keep it with consistency. So don't say to yourself, oh, I'm going to go to bed at 9 p.m. if come Saturday night you're likely to be out and you'll get to bed at 11 or 12 p.m. Then that's not going to be realistic. You're better off saying 10:30 and a wake up time, maybe 6:30, so that you can at least stick to that consistently as much as you can, understanding that life happens, but realizing that consistency really is what matters here. A tip is to set an evening alarm, not just a morning one, to remind you that it is time to wind down. So you might, if you go to bed at 10 p.m. and you've got a hard bedtime at 10 p.m., set yourself an alarm for 9 p.m. And that way you know it's time to wind down, and it's about mindfully reducing that stimulation within that hour. Now, this leads me to habit 2, which is about creating a calming routine. It makes sense that our brain can't flip from being in high alert to deep sleep instantly. So therefore, this habit is about creating a calming pre-bed routine. These activities help lower cortisol, which, as I said, is the stress hormone, and boost melatonin, which is the hormone that helps us sleep. Over time, your brain will start to associate these cues with sleep. So one is dim the lights an hour before bed. I know at our house, I have some soft lamps around the house, and when it's an hour to my daughter's bedtime and to my bedtime and my husband's bedtime, we flick the harsh overhead lights off and we turn on our lamps with the soft light. And that is a signal to our brain that it is time to calm down. People talk about doing gentle movement before bed. So one idea is taking a short walk after dinner can help with your digestion and help you relax. Obviously not too close to bedtime though. And other people advocate for light stretching or yoga to release tension before they go to bed. So that can be part of your calming routine as well. Some other mindful practices that the research would support are things like deep breathing exercises. So you might do the 4-7-8 technique. So 4 in, hold for 7, out for 8. Meditation or a guided relaxation can calm your racing thoughts. Journaling really helps me. This doesn't have to be anything too laborious. Often it is about just getting what I'm worried about down on paper and just clearing my mind of it. And it also helps me to write down my 3 top priorities for tomorrow and to close my notebook. So it's a bit of a ritual like, okay, I've said what I need to do tomorrow and I've closed the book. Therefore, that's tomorrow's problem. And now I'm signaling to my body it is okay to wind down and get ready for rest. There are some other comfort rituals that might strike a chord with you, remembering that your comfort is not the same as my comfort, but you might like to read a physical book. And the reason I say a physical book is holding a physical book for me, I find quite comforting. I know my girls both read e-readers, so they both have a Kindle, and that's fine by them, particularly because it has white light and not blue light behind it. So there's no issue there. But reading for me in bed is a really calming ritual. You might like to listen to calming music. Another one is to take a warm bath or a shower to relax your muscles. I know myself, after my shower, I like to really take my time with my skincare. I put on my serums and my moisturizers really slowly and give myself a lovely facial massage. I put body moisturizer on after my shower with a really pleasing, calming scent, and I put it on my arms and my legs in really slow strokes. These signal to my whole nervous system that it is time to slow down. So have a think about that. The first 2 habits: set a consistent sleep schedule, a consistent go to bed and wake up time. And the second one is setting up some comfort rituals, some calming routines that can help you really set your body up for sleep. Now, the third one is to create a sleep sanctuary. Your environment really does send powerful signals to your brain. And we know from research that a cool, dark, and quiet room is absolutely optimum for promoting deeper sleep. Aim for between 15 and 18 degrees Celsius in your room, so nice and cool. Block out any light with blackout blinds or curtains. And if you live in a noisy area or if you think it might help you, consider white noise. Now, here's a big one. Try and reserve your bed for sleep only. I went to a friend's house the other day and she was showing me around her new house. And I said to her, and I know my friend works from home, and I said to her, "Oh, where do you work? Where's your work set up?" And she said, "Oh, no, I just work on my bed." So anytime that she's working from home, she's sitting on her bed with her laptop on her lap. And that, for me, research would show is a really big no-no, because your bed needs to be for sleep and rest and not work. If you're working or scrolling in your bed, your brain really loves patterns, and your brain will associate that space with being alert and not with rest. So be really careful to reserve your bed for sleep. Now, the fourth habit is to manage your light exposure. Light is known as the master switch for our circadian rhythm. Bright light during the day is really helpful when we need to feel alert and to sleep better at night. So a tip here is that people say that a good night's sleep starts in the morning, and this is an example of that. If you can aim for natural light as soon as you can in the morning, This cements this helpful pattern of your circadian rhythm that your body really responds to. So first thing in the morning, see if you can open the blinds or the curtains, or even better yet, get outside. So therefore, we're thinking about bright light during the day, but then during the night, we need no light. We need really lack or minimal light exposure. Therefore, blue light from screens in the evening is really not good because it suppresses melatonin, as I said to you, the hormone that signals that it's time for sleep. A 2011 study found that even brief exposure to blue LED light, which is behind your phone and behind your laptop, can delay that melatonin release and therefore delay your body's ability to achieve quality sleep. So it's really important to power down devices at least 1 hour before bed. And if you have to have them on, use blue light filters. So that is the fourth habit. And our fifth habit is around intake. So it's about minding your intake. Caffeine can linger in your system for up to 8 hours, and that will reduce your total sleep time. So I know myself, I have my coffee in the morning, and I don't have coffee for the rest of the day. And then I try and stop tea at about midday, and then I switch to decaf. Although I find that tea doesn't affect me in the way that coffee does, caffeine-wise. But think about the sorts of foods and drinks that do have caffeine in them, be that chocolate, be that cola drinks and tea and coffee, and try and think about limiting those after lunch, because caffeine, as I said, stays in your system for up to 8 hours. Alcohol's another one to think about. This idea of a nightcap is tricky. Alcohol might make you drowsy initially, but it will disrupt your sleep later. So think about it. You may think that I'll, have a glass of wine or, a nightcap and it will knock me out. Yes, it may. But just because you stay asleep doesn't mean that your body is achieving quality sleep. And remember, we are really aiming for REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, which is the deepest sleep. And alcohol in the evening or any time of the day really disrupts your ability to achieve that. So in terms of intake, think about caffeine, think about alcohol. Heavy meals close to bedtime are the same thing. You may have had this experience where you go out for a late dinner and you have something quite heavy and you really struggle to get to sleep, not just because it feels heavy in your stomach, but also your body is working really hard internally to digest that food. And that amount of work is disrupting your body's ability to signal to itself that it's time to be safe enough to go into a deep rest. So think about heavy meals close to bedtime. They really can keep your digestive system working over time. If you do need a snack, go for something light and sleep friendly, like a banana or maybe some warm milk or maybe some chamomile tea. So I hope, habit nerds, that episode has given you some food for thought around sleep, understanding that sleep really matters for our cognitive performance, our emotional well-being, our physical health, and all of our social and emotional well-being, and understanding that there are 5 things that we can do. We can create a consistent sleep schedule. We can create a calming wind down routine. We can be aware of our sleep environment, so the sleep sanctuary. We can manage our light exposure, and we can think about our food and drink intake. Thank you for spending this time with me. I wish you all really beautiful and restorative sleep, and I look forward to hearing what you think of the episode. Until next time, take care. Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Habit Nerd. I hope you found some new inspiration, learned something new, or gained a fresh perspective. If you did enjoy the episode, I would be really grateful if you could please leave a 5-star review, as it helps the show get in the ears of new listeners, plus it should only take you 5 seconds. If you're keen for more tips and insights, then head over to Instagram and follow Habit Nerd.